Good morning. Let's have a look at these toes. So, the first thing that I notice when I see your toes is two things, and they both are on the right foot. And so, we're going to talk about each toe individually and how these things fit in. But one of the things is you have a large bump here. I don't know if that's a bunion. This is definitely something we can talk about more when we have our session together. But just having a large protrusion there, and then it's pushing your toe. So it's looking here towards your pinky toe. Now you have here the queen's toe. It's this large space between the two toes, and especially where it's square there in the bottom. This is the toe of leadership, and we're looking at your right foot here. So being a leader in your community, being a leader in the world is absolutely in written in the stars for you, if you will, or written in the toes, as we say here at the Toe Reading Academy. And then the other thing that really sticks out to me is how your third toe, your action toe, is significantly longer than this second toe. And I'd be curious to know if this toe was flexible and extended, how it would be. Would those three toes be approximately the same length? Your first toe, your second toe, and your third toe. And we're going to talk about how these things tie in with the rest of your toes for the toe reading. So let's start by talking about these two big toes, the great toes. Here's your left toe, that is your spirit path toe, and your right toe is your life path toe. And your left foot is what's happening internally. It's your relationship with self and with source. And your right foot is the relationship and the way that you are interacting and moving through the world. And so when we look at these two toes, there's a significant difference between these two toes. And so a major difference is how we have the protrusion here on the outside of the right foot, and it's smooth on the left foot. We look at the energy down here in the lower part of your toe and the energy here in the lower part of this toe, and even on up. Both toes lean and point towards the pinky toes, looking towards the future. This is something that is so common. We live in a world and in a culture where looking to the future is what we do. We're not trained to be present, and we're always looking to the future, and everything that we're doing now is leading to the future. And so this is very, very common, very normal, and it's a trend, honestly, I would love to break and work on being more present in the moment. The future is going to take care of itself. Having a direction that we're moving in the future is excellent and beautiful, but being present in where we are now on the path is really important. So I would encourage you for both of these toes to just take a few deep breaths every now and then and just get really centered in your body and get present. And this left toe, particularly your spirit path toe, I'd be interested to talk to you more about your experience in the realms of spirituality or religion, or the vehicles that we use in our humanity to contain spirituality, which is so expansive that we put it in containers so that we can comprehend it. And so I'd be curious to understand more from you because your toes are telling me that there is some blocked energy in this spiritual realm, perhaps some dichotomies that you have experienced in what you think you should believe versus what you have experienced. A lot of times in our humanity, religion is very authoritarian, and perhaps there are some areas that could be explored so that could be released. One of the things that I really recommend is to massage these toes. And on the right foot, I would hold the protrusion there on the outside of that foot there with my thumb while gently pushing the top of the toe out so it becomes more aligned with the whole foot and straighter. And then with the left foot, I would actually get my fingers and push the energy towards the tip of the foot and then around the bottom and towards the foot. So pushing out towards the nail, around back into the foot so that that energy can be released. So then we're pushing gently. This isn't hard. This is a gentle pushing forward of the energy, pushing back of the energy. So it's breaking up that stagnant energy that is in there. And while you're doing that, asking yourself questions, looking back over your history and your experience with spirituality so that you can have a better understanding of what this is. When we're releasing energy, sometimes it's important for us to know. Sometimes it's not important for us to know. So that could even be a question. Is it important for me to know what's caused this block energy? And if it is, then exploring out more. What could this be? Going back to parts of your life. This has gone back possibly generationally and for sure from very, very early in your lifetime. Because as we track time in the toes, the closer to the foot, the farther back in our lifetime it is, the farther out towards the nail and the tip is the more recent. And so if you look at this toe on the left side, that block energy is clear back, connected to the foot. I'm feeling that this is also generational as well as in your lifetime. And so moving that energy, you may need to know what it is, you may not need to know. And so just exploring what that looks like. And then keep an eye on that toe as you become aware. The energy is already moving. The energy is moving from our flash reading that we did just a last week. And so the energy is already moving because once the awareness is there, the energy, it starts to gently break up that energy. And so by that gentle manual manipulation with your toes, as well as through question asking and simply awareness, journaling, really looking back at life experiences and understanding where this block energy came from, those things are really going to get that moving. I also know that you are involved in energy work, so I would recommend using some of the modalities that you know on these particular toes. So again, the object being with the right toe to really step into this leadership, this really global leadership that you have written in your toes. It is your destiny to really be a global leader. And I know this because you have a global perspective. You have a small sixth toe, we put that in air quotes, sixth toe on the outside where you've got the protrusion on the outside. This indicates a global perspective. Combine that with the leadership toe that you've got there going on the right, and you have the potential, the destiny to be a global leader. There's more with these toes, and I'm going to come back to them as it surfaces. Let's start to look at those second toes. So in those second toes, you can also see that there's quite a bit of blocked energy in those toes, and it's showing up differently. So let's talk about the left second toe. This is your expression and communication toe. So if you look at that toe, there's also quite a bit of blocked energy that tracks back a long ways in your life, and likely generational. I'm seeing a lot of generational patterns, especially in your left foot. And so there's genetic and there's generational. Yes, there are genetic components to our toes. And there are also generational energies that get passed on to us that show up in our toes. I've seen it in newborn toes, and then it just becomes more as we get older, unless we do something about it younger. And honestly, we usually don't have the awareness to really do much about it. And that's one of the things that I love about doing this toe reading for you, is that this is showing you what you already intuitively know, and what you felt for a long time is showing you as hard evidence in this three-dimensional world in your toes. So back to this communication toe. A lot of blocked energy in there. You can see that in the puffiness and also in the redness at the end. And the direction of the toe is a little bit, it's not super claw-like like on the right side, but it is slightly bowed and bent down. There are things in your personal life that you are not expressing. There are things that you want to communicate that you are not communicating. And it's communication with yourself. This is about communication with self and with source. And this definitely has to do with the blocked energy that's in that first toe, because that first toe is leaning into that second toe, heavily into. If you look at that second toe, it is, of all of your toes on that left foot, the most straight toe. Expression and communication is really a superpower of yours. So I would invite you to really pay attention. What is your internal dialogue like? What are you saying to yourself? Worthiness issues, worthiness, enoughness, and some self-doubt are what I'm feeling in that second toe. And so the use of some affirmations could be very beneficial for you. And you can up-level those affirmations by, again, massaging this toe. And for this toe, and please know, like, I'm giving you these massage instructions. Any manual manipulation you do of these toes is going to help break up the energy. And there are some techniques that you can use that the energy is showing me would be particularly beneficial. So with this one, I would get the toe between my thumb and index finger and just move my fingers back and forth. If you can see me doing this, back and forth on that toe. And you can do it with a single finger, but I would do it with both hands, even if you just do it one at a time, so that you're getting equal spreading of the manual manipulation across that toe. Well, saying affirmations like, I am worthy, I am enough, I know how to communicate and express myself. And if those feel like too big of a stretch, I am learning to appreciate my worthiness. Or every day, I am expressing myself more completely and authentically at a deeper level. So, sometimes when we just say, I am worthy, our brain comes in and is like, oh no, we have this pattern of not being worthy. And now you just said that you are, and it feels like a lie, even though we cognitively know that it is true. And so sometimes softening up the affirmations by indicating a progression towards the goal can help our minds just settle down. And then I invite you to really feel this in your body, not just in your toes, but in your body. And ask yourself, what am I not aware of? Or what needs to come into my awareness for me to express and to communicate? What is the highest way, the closest to source way that I can communicate and express myself? And then being aware of the chatter that's going on in your head. When we look at the right communication expression toe, what I see here is, and I'm just going to say this, as a woman, as an older woman, you have not been encouraged culturally to stand in your power, to communicate, which is your superpower, and to lead. And when you have, it's felt like a battle. And this is showing up in that communication tone. There are conversations that you, at some level, consciously or unconsciously, want to have, and you're not having them. There are ways that you feel stifled and stunted in your ability to express and to communicate. And that toe is very claw-like, to the point that it's the shortest toe of those first three toes. Indeed, it is about the same size, appearingly, from looking at the tops like this, as your fourth toe. And so for this toe, I would recommend almost like, so flexibility is what we want with this right foot, and energy release is our goal for the left foot through the manual manipulation. So on the right foot, pushing down on that middle knuckle and the end knuckle gently, and just creating flexibility in that toe while exploring questions and affirmations of what are you here to express and communicate? And what does it look like to step into your power? What does it look like to express and communicate in a way that is empowering to yourself and others? And some affirmations here. I know how to express myself, or I am learning every day how to express myself more. I embrace my power. I'm confident in expressing myself in a way that is aligned with me. While the two toes, the 2 feet are connected to each other, it's the same issues. They are expressing very, very differently. And so what's going to happen is as these toes start to align, you release the energy from the left and you create more flexibility and renewed energy in the right. They're going to support each other. And I want you to just imagine what your toes would look like and feel like if that second toe was long and flexible and that first toe straightened out. You would have almost such a big space between those toes that it would be something where I would say, just make sure that you don't step so far away from society in your leadership that you're not actually a leader, because a leader requires followers. Otherwise, you're not a leader. That is the definition of a leader, is someone who is guiding and leading people. And so it's a beautiful balance here to be able to stand on your own, to be a maverick, to really create your own reality, and to stay connected with people, to stay connected and not ignore those other toes. And again, this is something that we can explore more when we have our one-on-one session. Let's look at those third toes, the action toes. So this is, when I look at your toes, you are 100% a person of action. You take action, and that is a super admirable quality. And I believe you told me you are an Aries sun sign in astrology. And this toe, so Mars is the ruler of this toe, just like Mars is the ruler of Aries. And so this toe is straight. You take action. You can be very direct. My guess is that this is another quality of yours that has not always been embraced and appreciated culturally, and that there were some norms that didn't quite work for you, that you felt stuffed into a box to comply with. I see you really as kind of a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, or that people around you in your life experience has been people trying to put you as a square peg in this round hole, and you don't like it. And the blocked energy is showing that, and this ability to take action. This is why I know you're going to do the things that I'm recommending in this toe reading. And so I'm really working to be very, very specific with the instructions, because you're going to do them as a person of action. Now, the other thing that I think is interesting is your communication toe and your relationship toe there on the right foot are both pointing towards that action toe. And so that would make a lot of sense for a person with action. What we want to be cautious of is that taking action, our human doingness, isn't where we're getting our value. We are valuable because we are human beings and we do things in our being, but we don't want to become human doings where our value that we place on ourselves is wrapped up in that action. I'm also going to guess that your primary love language is probably first acts of service and second words of affirmation. And again, this is something that I would love to discuss in our one-on-one session. And that's likely how you share your love as well. And so being aware of that, and I would stay with what you're doing. That is an absolutely beautiful toe. There is some blocked energy. So I would take the sides of your toe and just rub with my thumb and index finger, the sides of your toe, just a gentle back and forth. And that toe's going to be just really, that toe is going to give you the foundation, the connection, and the power to really bring about the things that we're talking about in this reading. Specifically, you're stepping into your self-expression, communication, and leadership. The action toe on your left foot is a little turned towards the future. There are things that you want to do in the future that you don't feel like you can do now. And from our conversation that we had earlier, this is definitely true. There are things in your life now that are they are preventing you from taking the action that you want in the future. And so what I would invite you to do is ask yourself questions like, what can I do now? What can I do now for me? Self-care is vital for you. Taking care of yourself is really important. That's an important action to take. My guess is that as you take one or two, even if they're small, self-action or self-care actions per day, that toe, that action toe, third toe on your left foot is going to start to shift. And that toe, same procedure as with that second toe, just a gentle rubbing between the thumb and forefingers of that toe, and perhaps a gentle nudging of that toe to be more straight and stop looking so much towards the future. And when you catch yourself thinking about the future, and I know that it's hard, wishing that something were different than it is now, that's looking towards the future and not being present. And so I'd really encourage you to, when you get on that mind train of wishing that things were different than they were now, coming back to the present, and that would be a time to take that breath, which is an act of self-care. Getting the rest that you need is an act of self-care. Giving yourself the energy work that you're learning and reaching out to other practitioners for that. Those are acts of self-care that are going to be highly valuable to you as a person of action. There's a lot of buzziness about doing things and being a doer and all of these things. I don't think that that is an alignment. We are not human doings. We are human beings who take action because that action aligns with us and because we love to participate in this life. Your fourth toes, these are your relationship toes. This is another place where if we just look as a baseline at the difference between those two toes. So on your left foot, the toe is straighter. It is looking towards the future. And there is less blocked energy in that toe than in your toe on the right side. And so this is your relationship with yourself. And as you do the things that we've talked about in this reading, your relationship with yourself is going to improve, particularly as you embrace and truly believe your worthiness. I think that you know that you are worthy, but you don't always feel that you are worthy. So I would invite you to just connect your head and your heart, connect your root and your head coming together in your heart for this feeling of worthiness, this feeling of enoughness, this knowing that you were created perfectly to accomplish what you're here to accomplish in this lifetime, to learn the lessons in this lifetime, and how beautiful it is that there are these lessons that you can learn now. And with this toe reading, different ways of arriving at your goal, the milepost along the way through your journey of life. So gentle manipulation, gentle massaging of that fourth toe while doing some of the affirmations that we've already talked about, and creating your own affirmations that feel in alignment with you. And then the presence, that toe does track in the nail just a little bit towards the future. And so just being in the present. The fourth toe on the right foot is heavily leaning into the doing. And so I would invite you to explore what would it look like to give love in a different way besides doing. And perhaps this is through expression and communication, which is going to help that communication toe. Perhaps it's not through doing, but through just being while somebody talks to you and not feeling like you need to solve a problem or make things better. There's also a lot of callousing on that foot, on that toe, which indicates that you are protective. You've built up some walls around yourself to protect yourself. And this is normal. When we're hurt, when we feel disappointment, when things don't go in life the way that we desire them to, when what we believe is different than what we experience, and so our beliefs come into question, or even the concept of being gaslighted by others or by ourselves. And that's when our brain is overriding our intuition. Our intuition, our bodies know something, but our brain is so smart. And I see this so much in the personal development world and in the spiritual world, that we get real conscious, and that's a beautiful thing. And then the dark side of that is that we then we're so smart that we start questioning our intuition because we're in our brains so much, in our consciousness so much. And so where does intuition live in your body? Where do you feel the intuition in your body? And I'm going to guess that you feel it in the lower half of your body, in your pelvis region. Just try that on. Again, this is something that we'll talk about when we have your live session, but feel into that, where in your body, and then how often does your brain override that? So I would invite you to just become aware of that relationship and tying those things together from root to crown. There is a chakra meditation that I really love. I call it the Essence Chakra Meditation. And I will share more with this about how to do this. But just really quick, our root and our crown chakras are connected. And so if you draw in energy from heaven and earth into that root and crown chakra, and then pull that energy up through the root, across through the heart, up through the crown, again down through the heart, and across the root. In the meantime, you're pulling energy in from the heavens, and it goes through your head, around, crossing through your heart, around your root, and back up. So basically, we're making infinity symbols through our root and crown chakra as we pull in the energy from heaven and earth, and it's crossing through our heart. And then our sacral and third eye chakras are connected, and our solar plexus and throat chakras are connected. And so getting the energy running between those 6 points, or those 3 different infinity symbols, always crossing through our heart chakra. With some essence breaths and having that energy running, this is going to be a powerful exercise for you and a radical act of self-care. The lifetime cost of guarding ourselves so that we don't get hurt is so much higher than the lifetime cost of living openly and vulnerably and taking the risk that we're going to get hurt. Because the truth is, as you know, you're going to get hurt anyway. People are going to hurt you, even the people and especially the people that are closest to us. So I would take my thumb, push it in on that side of that toe, the outside of that toe, while rubbing downward toward the base of that toe. So it's a gentle push in and rubbing down. Meanwhile, my index finger is kind of pushing the top. So what I'm doing is I'm working to align that toe. What I find interesting about this toe also is that the nail, if you look at the difference between the nails on the 2 feet, this nail looks to the past, the other nail looks to the future. This entire toe is looking to that action toe. So imagine what your relationships would be like if you were showing love, not through doing, but through another way, and just experiment with that. I think that that'll be a fun experiment. Our final toes here, this 5th toe, which is connected, as we talked about earlier, to that 6th toe, that global perspective. These are our trust and prosperity toes. These are also our earth toes, our toes that are connected to the earth. These toes are ruled by Jupiter, who rules trust, and Saturn, who rules groundedness and structure. These toes are both really looking to the future. These toes also are carrying a lot of generational and karmic energy. And so massaging those toes gently and asking questions like, what are the messages you are telling me? What can I do to understand the messages that you're sharing with me? And then focus on being grounded and opening yourself up to both trust of yourself and a greater level of trust for others and trust for source. That one came pretty clear. I would explore that at a deeper level. That has to do with, there it is, that has to do with the spirit path toe. Trusting source, trusting your higher power. And another thing that I would recommend is brew up some chamomile and peppermint tea, those 2 teas. Put in some pure Epsom salts. There's a lot of Epsom salts out there that have a lot of other things in it. Just get the pure Epsom salt and then put your own. Lavender is a really good go-to, but the other 2 that are really coming strong are neroli and patchouli. Neroli for the crown chakra and patchouli for the root chakra. And just allow your feet to soak in that. That is another act of self-care that is going to be very beneficial for you. So again, when we speak together, we'll explore more of these things, but please watch this video once or twice or however many times, listen to it and really feel into these things and journal about them. And then when we meet, it's going to be I feel like it's going to be a really powerful session for us to meet together and explore additional nuance and personal experience as it relates to your toes. Thank you for the honor of reading your toes and the trust you've put in me to read your toes.